All right, gang. Today we're going to talk about, as I promised, Tim Belknap, who was a star back in the 80s. I guess early 80s through early 90s. But he was Mr. America in 82. And oddly enough, this is going to be a bench press routine, which is like, what? I thought he was a bodybuilder. Yeah, he's a bodybuilder, but he had a pretty good bench. So much so that Anthony Didelot, Mr. Mass Monster, as shown here, wrote a couple of articles about Tim, one of them being about his strength training, and another was this bench press specialization routine. I'm gonna pick out a couple little tidbits from the strength article, and then we're just gonna roll into the bench routine because I thought that was unique. When it comes to routines. Here's just talking about, again, with his basic strength. All these are exercises that most of us have done as powerlifters, bodybuilders. And again, Tim kind of trained almost as much as a powerlifter as he did a bodybuilder. He used basic exercises and just went heavy. Yeah, he would do a little bit higher reps in the 8 to 12 range typically, as you'll see in the routine. Here, Didelot's talking about his being impressed with Tim. And yeah, he's just 5'4" and just from head to toe, every muscle filled out to about its maximum capacity, or so it looked. So he goes on giving accolades to Tim in that regard and making comparisons to Casey Viator, Ronnie Tufel, and Mel Hennessy, which is kind of an interesting combination. Now, Mel was a guy that was mentioned by my friend Joe DeMarco from the original Culver City guys. Now, there's Casey. Again, first Mr. America. There's Mel. You could see he was just a massive dude. He was another short guy, too. And I believe he competed in the 220s and 242s. You can see him bench pressing here. And you can see there's no arch. There's no bench shirt. Knee wraps are a little weird. But just used to throw up massive bench weights and without all the accoutrement that is common today. And there's Ronnie. Ronnie went back a little farther into the 70s, but I think a lot of people even confuse Ronnie Tufel and Tim Belknap. So let's roll into the bench routine. Again, the exercise list is not super long. He just hit the basics really hard. And again, I tried to keep the speed proper on the text so that you could read it all. But if you can't on any particular thing, you can always pause. You can take a screenshot, whatever. Here he is doing the lying tricep extension, which it's mentioned decline tricep extensions. But that looks like he's on the floor in that particular case. Another thing he talks about here is not locking out. On most of the exercises, and particularly on the bench press. So again, and it says here, on a set of 10, he would do the first one and the last one locked out, but all the in-between ones, not so much. Anthony was a big power rack guy. He's got numerous articles about training on the power rack. Here he is doing a bench shrug, which is a Kelso thing, actually. So, of course, he had to ask Tim about his opinion on rack work. And Tim agreed that it might be helpful and nothing wrong with it. He just never really got into it himself. So then Tim split. There he is with his Mr. America trophy. It's quite a trophy. It looks like it's just about as tall as he is at 5'4". But again, you can see, he's not lacking any size anywhere. So he would do chest and back on Monday. Describes here. Starts with 2 1/4, up to 385, and for 8 to 12s. Then he would go up to 430 for 5. and then 455 maybe for a double or so. And then as described, he would move on to the bent arm flies, and he liked to get a really good stretch on those, as mentioned here, and it compares it to using the McDonald cambered bar. Now here he is on one of many Muscle Mag covers that you could see, in that period, in that 10-year period or so between the early 80s and the early 90s. There's another reference to the cambered bar. Tim didn't use it because it bothered his shoulders, but again, he felt that the way he did his flies, he got a good stretch, which gave a similar result. So all the big body parts he did twice a week, as he mentioned here. Shoulders and arms he did together. Basic movements again. Behind the neck press. And the heavy side laterals with up, as shown here, up to 70 or 80 pounds for forced all-out repetitions. He does admit to a little bit of swinging, but he said it was as strict as he could possibly go. And then after a little rest from doing the shoulders, he would move on to the arms, starting with triceps, which makes sense. Triceps are bigger and obviously more involved in the bench press. Here he is on Muscle and Fitness in 83. And I think he was covered in Muscle and Fitness in quite a few articles back in those days. Here it talks about, again, sometimes you might do some tricep push downs for a few sets. And then on arm and shoulder day, of course, he would do the biceps too. And only a couple exercises for 4 sets each, 8 to 12 reps. There he is with a nice side shot where you can clearly see his tricep was crazy. His forearms were pretty crazy too. The entire arm was just super developed as he was from head to toe. There he is doing some lat pull downs, which isn't mentioned in this, but maybe he did those as an alternative sometimes to the wide grip chin ups. And he also liked doing rows. So I'm going to sign off here. I hope you'll consider subscribing so you can stay tuned for more of these videos. Thank you to those who have subscribed, and I'm out.